Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time I've attempted to pull out my top 10 favourite vintage Agatha Christie paperback book jackets. Now it's almost an impossible task because there's so many absolutely beautiful book covers, but I've given it my best shot and that's what we're going to be having a look at today. So sit back, relax and let's take a look. Okay then, so we'll start off with the Penguin ones. Now Penguin obviously are famous for their typographical covers. They didn't really have illustrated book covers, at least not much, but they did have a few. So this is almost a classic really. This was Penguin book number 6. It was published as part of the first 10 back in July 1935 when Penguin first started. And Alan Lane, the curator of Penguin books, was of course quite a friend of Agatha Christie's. And the story goes, in fact, that he was leaving Torquay and he was sat at Exeter railway station after visiting Agatha Christie when he actually came up with the idea for the Penguin books. But we know that that's sort of a bit of a tall story, really, and that he actually pinched the idea for the colour-coded Penguin books from Albatross in Europe. But even so, it's quite a nice story. But I wanted to show that was the very, very first Agatha Christie in Penguin. So also of a typographical nature is this one, so it's Crooked House. Now, once again, nothing special on the cover, although you could say it's almost, iconic, the classic green and white for Penguin crime. But this one was part of a batch of 10, which Christie herself personally selected. It had a print run of 100,000, and Christie wrote a brand new short introduction to each of the 10 volumes. So when were these published? I think it was 1953, and there's Christie's little introduction there. And publishers. Now, Agatha Christie was the first crime writer to have 10 books published simultaneously as Penguins. This new selection of a further 10 is Mrs. Christie's own choice, and for each she has written a short foreword in which she gives a background to the story, explains how she came to write it, and says something of her reasons for including it amongst her 10 favourite novels. So that's one of those, and excellent stuff. Now, as we said, Penguin weren't known for their illustrated jackets. However, for a brief period they did actually produce a little line of illustrated jackets. Now these were published in 1957, and this is part of a series of about 35 illustrated jackets under the overall artistic direction of a chap called Abraham Games. Now these two covers here are by the artist Godsell. Now I've not been able to find out much about Godsell, and they're not the best, although I think that is actually quite a nice little jacket for Murder in Mesopotamia, but I think it's better than Murder is Easy. But I didn't want to touch on the Penguins without actually including those, so we'll say that the Penguins, the ones that we've seen here today, are coming in at number 10 in my top 10 favourite Agatha Christie's. Now in the number 9 slot I've chosen a couple more typographical ones. So we've got this one from Albatross. Now we mentioned them earlier, and this was the very first paperback printing of Murder on the Orient Express. And then we've got later on the Collins Crime Club paperback edition of, in fact, the very same novel. So this one actually launched the Collins Crime Club in paperback. So it's the first because it's only got a few titles listed on the back here. It came in its wrapper. This is a pretty nice copy of that one in actual fact. My Albatross is sadly not quite in as good shape. You can see it's quite worn, but the Christies in Albatross are very, very scarce. This one needs a bit of repair work, but I'm just glad I've got one all the same. So I'd say they were in the number 9 slot, and once again both typographical covers, but really, really iconic. And if you've got these in top shape, these are really, really fantastic books. And I think the Albatross Crime Club, with their sort of orangey red for their crime titles, they're really, really distinctive and by far the hardest ones to get hold of for Albatross. And well, the Collins Crime Club paperbacks, they published dozens and dozens of Christies, didn't they? And I think they're all fantastic, and once again almost as iconic as the Penguin book covers, these early Collins ones here. So I think they're fantastic. So I've put those in joint 9th place. So I couldn't really do a favourite vintage Agatha Christie paperback covers without including some of my American ones. Now, I don't have anything like as many American ones as I'd like. I've got, I don't know, I'm estimating, and this is a rough estimate, but I think I've got maybe 250 different paperback editions of Christie across all my publishers, but I've maybe got about 30 American ones. But these are the two favourites that I've pulled out, and both of these I got pretty recently, in fact. These are pocket ones, and this is a fairly early pocket one. It's pocket number 79 in its first printing, Murder in the Calais Coach. So obviously it's the Orient Express. It is a pretty early one. Let's have a little look at the printing. Yeah, first pocket edition, October 1940. And a bit like some of my Dell books from this period, the covers are almost like airbrushed artwork. And I just really like this one. It's just a great jacket and typical sort of the period. Really heavy as well. This one is a later pocket. It's pocket 465. It's still a first printing. Just check the dates on this one. November 1947. Once again, Death comes as the end. It's the one with all the Egyptian overtones there, and I mean Pan did a very nice edition of this in the 1960s, but I think this is perhaps the best cover I've ever seen of that one. I think it's really great. Just superb. A lot going on there. They got the hieroglyphics. I mean, it's just a great jacket, that one. So I've put the two USA pocket books there as like number 8 in my top 10 Agatha Christie's. So at number 7 is Pan Books in the UK, number 82, which is Dumb Witness. Now, I've always really liked this one. I love the Yorkshire Terrier, and in this particular title, I love to see how artists treat the Yorkshire Terrier as part of the story, and if they do indeed work him into the cover. And that's what's happened here. So this is one of the very early Pan Agatha Christie. I think it may be the 3rd or 4th one. And this is the first printing of it. And I think this is 1949, this particular one, and I have actually got the 2nd and 3rd printing. So the 2nd printed, admittedly a bit of a beaten up copy, is this one. So you can see if you have them side by side, they've sort of put the cover in like a little vignette there, so they've actually taken some of the artwork away there, which is a bit of a shame. And they've sort of made it a highlight, and also the cover is different, and this just reflects the different Pan Books logo of that period. No idea who the artist is on this one. I've been on a few websites, including the Pan Collector's website, and not been able to find out who it was. And then quite recently I picked up a 3rd printing of it, which is a slightly different colour again. It's another year or two later. This is 1953 now, and this one, if I try and get all 3 of them in, let's put them all in a line here a minute, like so. You can sort of see the progression. So 1948, 1950, 1952. So that's how they've all sort of progressed. I know there's not a lot of difference between those, but it's just Pan modernising that original illustration. So that was the 3 different sort of editions of Dumb Witness. And that's my 7th favourite vintage Agatha Christie paperback. So in the number 6 slot is the ABC Murders. And what a beautiful cover this one is. It's by the artist Key, K-E-A-Y, Kia. I've actually got a couple of copies of this one as well. That one's my first edition in Pan. Quite a worn old copy, that one. So I'm on the lookout for a better copy of the first. But I have got the 2nd or 3rd printing, which is absolutely beautiful. So it's a much better example of, I think, an absolutely gorgeous cover. It was so good, in fact, that in the early 90s, there was a firm called Dunn's Chew, and they released 10 Agatha Christie Pan book jackets. They did 10 Ian Fleming James Bonds as well, and they released it as a postcard. So there it is, and it looks like they found probably a copy of the book as mint as they could get, and they've scanned it and they've sort of enhanced the colour a little bit on that one. But these Christie postcards, I don't think they're too difficult to find these days. In fact, I did have a spare one just recently, which I just knocked it out for £1 or £2. So worth keeping your eyes peeled for these. And I've got all the other ones that they did release. I'll show you those at the end of the little Pan run here. But yeah, the ABC Murders, definitely one of my favourites, and I've popped that one in the number 6 slot. In number 5, we've got Sparkling Cyanide, another Pan 345 in their main series. This one is also artist unknown, so we don't know. And a lot of the Pan artists, we know exactly who did all the covers, but this one is a bit of a mystery still. And boy, oh boy, what a great... It's like it's captured a moment, hasn't it? Just a moment in the story, and I just love the way, the detail in those hands. It's just fantastic. I really, really like this one. Once again, this one had the treatment with the postcard there, so this one's been scanned and looks like they've lightened that one ever so slightly. In fact, they've taken it. No, my logo on the first one, there's a circle. This must have come from a later printing that they picked up. Mine's 2 shillings and there's 2 and 6. So yeah, this was definitely scanned from a later edition of the book. But yeah, Sparkling Cyanide, one of my favourites, and I put that at number 5. Number 4, and the last pan we'll look at today, is The Body in the Library. Now, I think the artist, although we don't know who the artist actually is on this, they've spent a lot of time on this one, because although you can't see any titles, of course, they've really taken their time to put each individual book into the picture there. And although the top of it is sort of cut off by the logo there, I think they've done a really great job there. And they would have had to have painted all the books, and then they put over like an overlay over like a silhouette of the person being murdered. Now, I don't know who actually, or if anyone actually owns the original artwork to this. I'm not sure if it's in either the 2 great pan artwork collections. I don't think so, but I think it's iconic. And once again, Duns Jules did re-release it as a postcard here, and it looks like they've taken the exact same edition that I've got, but it's a little bit lighter. But yeah, Body in the Library, there's lots of great editions of this one, but that one with all the books on really appeals to me as a bit of a bibliophile. So that's my favourite, and that's the last we'll see of the pan ones. But I did want to show you just the rest of the postcards which got released by Duns Jules since we're here. So we had Murder on the Links, Appointment with Death, Mysterious Affair at Stars, which I do like these ones, but the other ones have appealed to me on sort of a different level, as there's very much a personal choice. 1, 2, Buckle My Shoe, Hand of Death, Secret of the Chimneys, and then we've got N or M, and this is a great one, and I've actually got this one signed by, well, this was signed in the early 90s by Peff, who was the original pan cover artist. I don't know if you can see his signature in a little bit of silver there, which is quite nice. So that one's been opened. I got him to sign a couple of my James Bond ones as well. So that was really, really nice there. I guess at the time, I didn't have a copy of the actual book, so I never got that signed, but I did at least get the postcard signed. So there, I said, they are around, those postcards. You need to have a little look online for them. Okay, so unsurprisingly, my all-time favourite vintage Agatha Christie paperback jackets are published by Fontana, and a lot of them by the artist Tom Adams. In fact, almost all of them, with the exception of this one. So I'm going to just show you a few honourable mentions. So that was one of the few early ones which I thought was actually worthy of mention. It's a really, really great jacket. In fact, it's the 3rd copy of Murder on the Orient Express we've actually seen today, if you can believe it. In fact, the 4th, because we had the American one, didn't we? So what is it about that story, apart from it being fantastic? So that's one of the very earlier sort of Fontana ones. To be honest, the artwork on those is a little bit basic. A lot of them aren't by named artists. They're just Fontana house artists working for Collins. And, perhaps they're not amongst the best. But I did particularly like that one. Then we've got a few by Tom Adams. Now, these next 3 are all ones which I thought were worthy of being mentioned as being particularly good, but they're not my top 3 favourites. So we got Evil Under the Sun there, which is fantastic, with the sort of the voodoo doll there. And you have to say with Tom Adams, he brought an air of sort of gothicness to the Christie jackets, and he really did add something quite special to them. And I think they are, superb. All of them are superb. I just love them all. And we got Hickory Dickory Dock, which is another really, really detailed cover. That one, I love the face behind it, with the mouse in the foreground on the ring, just superb. And my other honourable mention would be Third Girl, which once again, very intricate artwork with the peacock feathers there, and the dagger with the 6 and 7 hooked into it on the bloodstained knife. Fantastic stuff. That quite special. So they were my honourable mentions, but my actual top 3, and they're all from Fontana, and they're all by Tom Adams. We've got this one in the number 3 spot, which is Taken at the Flood. What an absolutely gorgeous jacket that one is. And this one's obviously set during the war. And it's highly detailed. I mean, it really, really is superb. You sort of, you can sort of see St. Paul's in the background there. This is a London scene. ARP wardens digging like a young girl out from a blitzed or bombed out house. There's a lot going on in this cover. I think it's fantastic. I really, really do. It's a real special cover, that one. It must have taken a long, long time to produce, and it's just an absolute classic, that one. So I'd say that was my number 3. In number 2, we've got this one, and it's a Caribbean mystery. Now, this haunted me when I was a kid. I remember being absolutely fascinated by it, and you've got to admit, it is pretty good. You've got the head there. It doesn't look like it's severed. It's just like lying in the sort of in the grass with the bulging eye there. You just think, wow, it's almost like a horror book, isn't it? And then the incredible detail of that photograph there. I mean, and then the flowers are in it. It's just a great, great, fantastic jacket, and one that I vividly remember seeing as a kid, and it always stuck with me. And I think this sort of typifies the Fontana editions. It really, really does. When was this one published? This is the second impression, June 1967, that one. I just love it. So that's in my number 2 spot. My number 1, and my all-time favourite Tom Adams jacket out of all the work that he did, is this one. So it's Destination Unknown. So I believe this was also 1967. Yeah, April 67 is this printing, and I believe this is the first printing with Tom Adams's really psychedelic cover. So this was 1967. It was the Summer of Love, and also this year he painted Colonel Sun for the Kingsley Amis James Bond book, which is very, very similar to this. It's got sort of a Dali-esque feel to it, and I'll pop a picture of that one up as well so you see them side by side. But there we are. That is my favourite one, and it's just gorgeous, I think. I mean, it doesn't really bear a lot of resemblance to the story, but I just love it. It typifies the period that it was painted when the book was published, and I think it just highlights Tom Adams's fantastic skill. Really, really great, that one. It's my all-time favourite Agatha Christie book jacket. So there we go. That's my top 10 with a few honourable mentions, Agatha Christie and vintage paperback jackets. If you've got particular favourites, do leave them in the comments below. I mean, maybe I've not actually got them. I've tried to pull all these books are from my own personal collection, and I know I haven't quite got all the British ones yet, but I'm working on it. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed looking through them. Certainly some gorgeous covers there. If you have enjoyed today's video, do please give it a thumbs up. Do please hit the subscribe button for regular vintage paperback content, and I'll look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.